Hello, Kate. How are you?
Good. Hello, Derek. Nice to see you.
And where are you speaking from today?
So I am in my studio in London. My studio's at home at the end of the garden.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Lucky, given the last 2 years.
Yeah, so the commute is not very long from coffee in the kitchen to work studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just along the garden. It was great. Yeah. So as soon as I graduated, I took a studio at the Oxo Tower, and it was just at the beginning. So I think there's maybe 40 artist studios, and we have showrooms at the front and a studio at the back because it's open to the public. And so it was a beautiful community, like loads of different ceramicists, glass artists, jewelers, different types of designers. So it was a nice transition from college to being in a kind of design community.
So you touched on graduating. After you graduated, you moved to the Oxo Tower. Tell me a little bit about that period in your life. Was that your introduction to glass? Is that how you first discovered working with glass in an architectural context?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I started doing ceramics. So I did. I started doing a degree in ceramics in Stoke-on-Trent, and as part of the course in the first year, you could sort of try out different materials. So I did a term in the glass studio, which was mouth-blown glass and kiln-formed glass, and just completely fell in love with working with glass. Yeah, I mean, just that was what I wanted to do. And kind of at the same time, I discovered a degree course in London at Chelsea School of Art. I went down to see the degree show, and yeah, loved what they were doing. And in the bar after the show, I was talking to the course lecturer, and he said, "Start in September." So I did. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that would happen now, but I transferred from Stoke to Chelsea, and did the public art degree, which was a fantastic course. Yeah, I loved it. And actually, after the degree, I went on to do an MA at Chelsea in public art, which was much more theory based. And so it was sort of looking at the different ways art can be integrated, into the built environment. And yeah, so and then after that, because that had been so theory based, I then went and did a postgrad in architectural glass at Central St Martin's in London, and that was with Caroline Swash, the stained glass artist.
Your work is incredible. It has such a particular personality and such a style and such a use of color. There's a tremendous minimalism to it. It's looking through your work. It's so clever because it occupies the space so completely with such a minimal use of shape and form. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you kind of evolved your particular style?
Well, I suppose, I mean, I'm very definitely come from a design background. Um, so I don't paint and I don't draw. So I work a lot with collage and collage on paper and 3D collage. But I guess my inspiration is fundamentally is architecture. Actually, I mean, I love architecture, particularly modernist architecture. Yeah, I guess sculpture and architecture are the two things that really inspire my work.
I think of modern architecture almost like sculpture. It's about shape and form and landscape and silhouette. And there can be a real conflict, can't there, between the ego of an artist and the ego of an architect. And sometimes you can see pieces of art in public buildings that are so mismatched and so inappropriate because the artwork is shouting as loud as it can to kind of compete with the building rather than complement the building and rather to fit seamlessly. Your art fits seamlessly into it. And your approach is entirely different, isn't it? How do you approach that in terms of their ego and their sense of possession of the aesthetics of that building?
Yes, that's an interesting question. So fundamentally, I feel that my work should be fully integrated to the architecture, to work in harmony with the building, to the point where somebody walking into the space doesn't necessarily look at my work and think, oh, that's a piece of art. It's so seamless. It just becomes part of the architecture. And obviously it has its own role to play, but I don't like it to sort of shout out or be seen as an independent artwork. And I think my experience is that the best way to achieve a piece of artwork that's site-specific, that's fully integrated in the architecture, is really close collaboration. And that's something I really enjoy, but I think it's crucial. So in an ideal world, and I would be brought in to a project at the planning stage. So pre-planning application, so at the very beginning. So as an artist, you can really understand the architect and the client's vision for the building. You can have a role to play, I think, in helping to sort of look at areas where public art would work, where it would be successful, or not just a sort of add-on. And then, a strong dialogue with the architect to work together to create something that enhances the building, that doesn't take over, that's not a huge statement, it just enhances it. What happens that way is you've gone on the journey together. So, I mean, maybe the manufacturers, so maybe proto studios, the engineers, the architect, the client, are all part of that conversation. So we all go on that journey, what's possible, what do we want this to do, what do we want it to say? And I love working in that way. I mean, it feels an honour, right, to put your work into an amazing building. But I think, the way to make that a successful project is really close collaboration from the beginning all the way through to installation.
Your work is timeless, and I think it's partly timeless because it doesn't have a particular identifiable theme or set of themes, as in images, in representational image. You're not trying in any way to be representational. You're speaking a different type of language, which is a much more subtle language, a language which harmonizes, as you say, with the building and the whole moment of that building. I take it you still use handmade Lambert's glass. Do you have a particular favorite method of having your work made?
I would like to use more Lamberts, for lots of reasons. I mean, it's beautiful and I would like to support them. Most of my work is screen printed ceramic enamel with Proto Studios. I've worked with Lamberts before in the past. Derek's do that for me, and usually that's, they have this amazing way of bonding the Lamberts onto a clear sheet of glass, so there's no lead. So I did a beautiful project using all Lamberts for Bristol, the Environment Agency in Bristol.
Oh, that beautiful, strong green, that lime green. That's one of my favorites. The boldness to come up with that solution, it's absolutely brilliant. And it's so, I've never seen it. I need to go and see. I need to just be bathed in that light. It must be incredible to be in that space. It's a large glass cube, isn't it?
So the client for that building is the Environment Agency, and it's an entrance cube, and it's almost opposite the cathedral in Bristol. And I wanted to replicate, because we were doing stained glass, I thought, let's use proper, traditional stained glass. And I mean, Derek's and Lambert's were incredible. So it's basically a glass cube, and the Lambert's is bonded to the inside face of the glazing, and it's even on the ceiling, the underside of the ceiling. So from outside, as the sun hits it, has this intense glow, and it's wonderful. But as you walk in, you're bathed in this pool of. I wanted to use Lambert's because of the very slight texture that you have. So not only is it coloured light, but you have that wonderful texture. And then obviously, as people move through the building during the day, the coloured light moves around. The intensity of it changes as the light changes. So that piece, again, it's three-dimensional. It's not just a piece of stained glass. People literally interact with it.
I think it's one of the great examples of the potential for using antique glass. So often I see artists, and myself included, who go down the route of screen printing or airbrushing because it's a more cost effective option, especially if you're doing a large scale piece. And you don't see tremendous use very often of Lambert's glass. That particular example in Bristol is a tremendous example of the power of antique glass used in an entirely contemporary manner. Screen printing is a flatter process, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I love screen printing because depending on the colours and the application, you have this real velvety texture with it, which I love. And if you put mirror behind, you have the reflection coming. I mean, I guess there is a whole thing about stained glass. How far away from traditional stained glass can you move and it's still within the tradition of stained glass? And I think that's something that's always evolving, right? Because now you can print onto a piece of acetate and laminate it between two sheets of glass, and probably it has, a 20-year lifespan. But I feel with screen printed ceramic enamel, I still feel that you're still working within the tradition of stained glass. It has its own unique properties that it brings to the work. But Lambert's glass, yeah, I mean, that's where my heart is. I love Lambert's glass, and when you have all your samples out in the studio, the colours are incredible. So I would love in the future to be able to use that more. And obviously, with modern technology, I mean, we're in the 21st century, so all things are possible. And yeah, I mean, for the project in Bristol, it was incredible to be able to just clad this quite soft mouth-blown glass onto a big architectural feature. But I guess as time goes on, we'll be able to do more and more things. We'll be able to develop that further. And that's really exciting.
So when I'm talking with glass artists, I love to ask them what their favourite projects are, and I get the sense that the Environment Agency project in Bristol was a great favourite of yours. Perhaps you can maybe talk about another couple of projects that are of particular significance that you want to bring to the audience's attention.
There's a project I did in Baker Street in London, just near Oxford Street, and that's a particular favourite for a few reasons. I mean, one of them is that it's near to where I live. So it's the one project that I see a lot, because we work all over the country, in different countries. And so very often you've made something, it's part of your life for a long time, and then you take a photograph of it, but you actually don't see it in real life again for maybe years. But this particular project, I see a lot. Well, if I go into the West End, I walk past it, and it's wonderful. You see all the way the light shines, the different reflections. So I love that just because I see it a lot, but also because it was so well made, I have to say. So Proto Studios produced it. It's screen printed ceramic enamel onto mirror. But it was a very difficult project to make. So there are about 14 different blues with a seamless transition. So the gradation between each colour is just not visible. And David Proto did all of that by hand. So that building that's one project I like. And then the other one I'd have to say is the Sage Music Centre in Gateshead. And again, for a few reasons. Predominantly because it's a glass balustrade that runs through the main concourse of the concert halls, and one of the times I went back after it had been completed, I had my son, who was just tiny, just learned to walk, and he spent the whole time pressed up against the coloured glass, like looking through the colours over the river to Newcastle. What I love is the idea that from a tiny tot, you go into the building to do music classes or with your mum or whatever, and you look through this amazing coloured world. But then as you get older, you're a teenager, you go to concerts, you go for coffee, there's a music school downstairs. And I love the idea that my work plays a part in creating memories and experiences for people, through the whole journey of their lives. And that feels like a huge honour, really. And I'd say, that's really why I'm drawn to public art, because you're making something beautiful in a space that people, even subconsciously, it becomes part of their everyday lives and makes the environment more beautiful.
So what's the future for KATE Maestri? What are you planning at the moment? You're doing a residency just now. Do you have future exhibitions that you're working towards at the moment?
So I'm doing a residency at the Brunswick Centre, which is a modernist residential development in Bloomsbury in London. And that's been great. So I've had access to a studio in there and I've been able to spend time in the building. So I've been developing a new series of wall sculptures, actually using wood. So looking at colour and form. And some of the architectural projects that just went to sleep, obviously, in the last 2 years, are just starting to wake up again. So that will be really nice to get back to sampling those and working on those.
Fabulous. Well, KATE, it's been absolutely wonderful to spend some time with you today, learning a little bit more about your work and your direction of travel. I love your work. Your work is rightly celebrated. It is very unique. It is stained glass, but stained glass in a completely different... I was interested to discover that you still use the term stained glass for your work. It has a connotation of traditional, but your work is not in any way traditional, and all the better for it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, KATE Maestri.
Lovely to see you. Thank you. Bye.